Klaj is outmatched pretty hard when you compare him to KaSing.
We'll see if they have any tricks up their sleeve. As we enter the pick and ban phase for this first game, Vitality on that blue side. And they ban away the Jhin right away.
And we have to remember we are on 6.6.
Yeah.
So some new things. It's the patch LCK has been playing on, obviously. But there are still a lot of power picks, but I feel some of the real S-tier picks has been nerfed a little bit, and there's actually a higher chance you leave the likes of Nidalee open, even though we still expect her to potentially or probably be banned in most of the games. And
each of these bans has like different reasoning behind them, so we'll just try to like get them to you guys. Jhin obviously has risen in terms of strength across the board, but Fnatic have played a ton of Jhin, whereas the Poppy and the Trundle right now in the top lane, they're going up the ranks too.
I feel it's safe to say Rekkles kind of introduced Jhin to the professional scene in many ways, especially here in Europe, so the ban makes a lot of sense. Graves is a pick that Spirit has been absolutely spamming, of course, in solo queue. Krepo, you probably know a lot about that.
Oh yeah, he plays Graves in dynamic queue, and then he's just always really happy. Oh, you guys are so good by the way. But the best thing here is that we see the Nidalee ban at least come out. I think that's necessary against Shook for one. And just on purple side, across many regions, it seems to still be a must ban, because if you give the enemy team the tier 1 jungle pick, you already play on the back foot.
And now, first pick for Vitality here.
Trundle?
Trundle is an option when Poppy's banned as the two probably top tier, S-tier top laners. Azir is going to be another pick we have to look at, because everyone talks about how strong Azir is right now.
There is still that Varus counter pick though. I personally wouldn't even mind seeing a Trundle here for Cabochard to make sure that he has the best matchup.
But they got the Azir right off the board. Curious to see with that blind pickup, and they just have said it is so strong. I'm really interested to see where they go to the AD carries, because the Corki Sivir band out, that changes a lot of things, especially for Hjarnan.
I mean, Kalista is still open as a nerfed AD carry, but she is still strong, especially when she is together with her support.
Yep.
Obviously, Ezreal, Lucian are the other ones we're looking at, but the reason I think this Azir pick is smart and also planned obviously by Vitality is the components to create a Varus poke comp has been banned away.
Yeah.
Because the Corki and Jhin has been removed, and you could see like a Corki AD carry Varus mid lane or Jhin AD carry Varus mid lane, and those have been banned by Vitality setting up that first pick Azir.
And in addition to that, this is game 1 of a best of 5. You immediately put pressure on like Fnatic, okay, show me at least one answer to this Azir, and show it without the conventional combination that you just highlighted here. That's why they ban out the Jhin and the Corki. This rotation, though, if they lock it in, is also smart, because we talked about how Trundle is the tier 1 top laner and kind of wins a lot of matchups. But right now, this means that Vitality is almost forced to go Nautilus in the top lane, because all these tanks are either banned out or taken.
And it's fun to see how teams are trying to steal away from each other. You know, because you pick Maokai, the natural answer into Maokai in this current meta on 6.6 is Trundle.
Yeah.
Well, we just take the Trundle and we put him support, so you can't pick the counter pick here. And then at the same time now, on the side of Vitality, they're saying, all right, but you're leaving now the best available jungler, who's also the only good jungler who's very strong into Azir. That's the Gragas. So both teams are giving and taking from each other.
A lot of back and forth on the board in Fnatic. You know, they've already blocked the Ezreal too. I don't know about that Zed into the Azir. It has been also a back and forth matchup, very skill based, and we've been talking about these two mid laners being pretty much quintessential for their team.
But look at what Sean's did there too, the insta-lock on Gragas Lucian. They were somewhat ready for this rotation to come out, or they at least have a plan. They have a composition in mind, because the building blocks were there. They said they had the Azir. They didn't care that suddenly a somewhat weird rotation came out where both Maokai and Trundle disappeared. They insta-locked Gragas Lucian, leaving Fnatic with less time to think about their comp.
And now when it comes to top lane picks, Cabochard is of course playing tanks now. Nautilus is an option into Maokai. You will lose later on in the game against the Maokai, but early on you have to push for yourself and you just kind of pair tank versus tank. Or we have seen some new picks coming in. Ryze, Echo, Graves is still being played top lane if Cabochard wants to be a bit more of a carry.
Yeah, obviously that Graves is off the board this game, but we're looking at double AD here.
For lying to everyone.
Yeah, he can play it later on. You're setting up the series here.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously. I'm hyping the next game.
Yeah.
Naturally.
But double AD here with lane early against some of these matchups. Yes, level 7 he comes back. So Fnatic is falling, for me, in a trap they're fallen in the past, which is all these slow, losing early game lanes.
And I think it's very, very key also to highlight Kindred in team fights is extremely weak against Azir and Gragas. It is two champions who can remove her from her ulti, which is her main way of actually staying safe in these fights here and trying to deal damage. And also again with the Ezreal very slow scaling, there is minimal backline threat from Fnatic at the moment, which means this Lucian pick can also have a lot of power from Hjarnan.
It absolutely can, and for Vitality, they have a lot of comfort on their hands, but we'll talk about that in a minute because we got a Kassadin. We haven't seen that in several weeks here.
Yeah, we can exactly see why this pick came to be. The Xerath hover was there initially. Febiven was like, I'm not certain I want to play this matchup. Then they low hovered the Varus, but Fnatic made the right conclusion in saying if we go triple AD against the Gragas Nautilus frontline with an Azir late game with all these solo lanes in the early game, we will get to the late game, and then we're playing triple AD. So they make a pivot, but they go for a non-wave clear mid.
Yeah,
Kassadin.
It looks fancy. And
I don't think it'll work.
You know, directly, the Kassadin is a bit of a counter matchup into the Azir, but he needs a few levels. And again, you have such a slow scaling composition on the side of Fnatic. Every single lane is slow scaling. And also getting into teamfights is going to be a lot more about just picking off target than straight 5-on-5ing.
Fnatic need a lane swap because in standard lanes, all the lanes get pushed in early.
We'll have to see if that ends up being the case for them. Now taking a look as the two coaches will shake hands for the start of this series.
They lost sweating after this one.
This is going to be rough. We'll have to see how it goes. And with the lineups all locked in, it's time to see how these two shake out as we start our best-of-5 series to determine who is going to the semis.
Spirit and Gamsu are really scary.
Right now we're not a stronger team than Vitality. Getting through quarterfinals is just the first step.
The entire team's really motivated to make sure that we can perform and show up.
Will they show up? That is the question. Vitality, Fnatic. We are onto the Rift. This could be a hell of a series, and we will find out as it starts right now.
Yeah, we were very excited getting into this one. Also just seeing the first pick and ban phase in Europe on 6.6 and what teams who had 2 weeks to prepare has come up with.
Now that's some support.
30 seconds until
Let's take a look at what Fnatic want to start their early game off with. A little bit of deep movement for some wards.
This is what the crowd is cheering for, the deep wards. Everyone loves them.
Or the ward clearance.
Yeah, get vision, wards, wards, wards.
That's what you guys cheer.
I'm cheering for pinks. I have my own sign. I'm gonna wave later with just pink wards on.
Is it a scarf?
It's a sign.
Hanging up all over the place? All right, let's take a look. Vitality have done the same thing, the mirror. You said that Fnatic is looking for the lane swap here.
I mean, that's without even looking at the lane swap scenario. So there's 3 things you need to judge when you look at the lane swap. There's both the matchups bot, the matchup top, and then the speed at which teams can execute the lane swap. I think Vitality win in every regard.
Yes.
Lucian, Thresh, Nautilus will out-tempo. Yes, we're going to use that word a lot today.
I love it.
Fnatic. But I think if they go standard lanes, they lose every lane because Lucian Thresh will have double range versus a melee support. And then the Nautilus Maokai matchup is tricky for Maokai early too.
Yeah, it's a very good draft, I feel, for Vitality coming into game 1. I love the double poke ban. And then first pick Azir to see what you counter. KaSing early, gank in mid.
Sing on that roam, gets the play back on level 1. Ignite is down, and so is the flash.
I just want to go back to week 9 where Fnatic played Origin. And it was the last game for them, obviously, in the split. Origin won the game, that's why they secured number 4 and why Fnatic are playing Vitality today.
I think I know what happened there. 3 ganks in the middle and Xpacko got some help.
Exactly, because Pekka, obviously their owner of Origin, basically told his players, gank mid or lose your job. So they kept running into mid lane over and over, and Febiven fell pretty far behind. He had to use early summoners, and he's a player who has said himself that he struggles if he falls behind. Mentally, that is, obviously everyone will struggle if they're getting denied summoners and everything. But yeah, lane swap is on. Febiven is at his tower already.
And this was the second pickup. Febiven going for the Kassadin, forced to burn the flash quickly, advantage to Vitality as they transition into the normal fast push.
And here we see a little bit of the differences in lane swap. When you lane swap, you want to tank that minion wave outside the tower with your AD carry and then use spells and abilities to AoE the wave. But if you look at what Vitality have at their disposal, Riptide, they have Lucian Q, they have a Flay, it's easier for them to AoE the wave while still hitting the tower.
Yeah, Ezreal is good though when it comes to these situations because he can stack up his passive so effectively. Get a bit of extra attack speed, so the teams are very even. Gamsu obviously has to wait for this minion wave to die before he can kill the tower, and actually didn't even get a great bounce. Will very, very, very slowly push here. He will most likely just shove it out anyway in the end. once he sees where Vitality is sending their dual lane.
But we've very rarely seen this being punished. Like, top laners have gotten more greedy and greedy overall by pushing that wave out earlier and earlier. So we're just waiting for somebody to just call the bluff eventually.
Yeah, we'll have to see if that's the case. Febiven's going to spend his other summoner to get back into this lane. He's been set back a little bit early on, as we've already said. Nukeduck, interestingly, has also gone for a summoner heal in the mid lane, something we haven't really talked about, but it should work fairly well against this Kassadin pickup. I'm just worried for Fnatic. It's not just Febiven that has trouble when falling behind early.
No, that's true. The entire Fnatic lineup has relied a lot on strong early games, which was why once they changed the pick and ban phase at IEM, it started working because they had very strong 2v2 bottom lanes with the Jhin pick coming in. They had, of course, the Lee Sin for Spirit in the early game where he could go completely crazy. And it kind of made Fnatic look like a very strong team for a few weeks. The pick and ban phase got figured out and they had to change.
They still need to see here if they just keep Febiven in the game. This roam will just do a little bit of pressure every time is what Febiven needs to not be punished for this flash loss. Because Fnatic did in fact get the lane swap early, and it negates a lot of this early aggression in lanes from Vitality. For example, KaSing's running Thunderlords, but if there's nobody around you to punish with that, it gets negated. And
that little roam as well, it's not necessarily a roam to get a kill. It's when the lane is in a bad spot for your mid laner and he's a flashless Kassadin who has no extra mobility. If he's hovering close towards enemy tower because he has to try and push it out on his own, it's very easy to gank him. So Febiven is calling, I need help to push it out. Klaj shows, Azir backs away, then Febiven pushes into tower, can now get a reset lane and get it towards his tower and he won't get ganked.
Yeah, and with the mirroring of the fast pushes, you can see Vitality are actually investing a little heavier into this. They've got 4 up on the top side, whereas Spirit only was kind of hanging out in the enemy jungle.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point there, Pyra, because that's something we're not used to seeing. We're seeing generally just complete mirror overall, but right now 4 members in the top side for Vitality. Perhaps they realized they were actually somehow falling behind in tempo and they needed that tower down equally quick.
And it's also very smart when you want to create the Rift Herald play, something we see so much of in Europe, obviously. Get down that tower low enough that your jungler and support can step away. Take the Rift Herald, give it to your jungler. The reason you give it to jungler here is because your AD carry is already recalled. He's already on the bottom side, starting to push out that wave so you don't fall behind in the first push. You can see Rekkles is here as well. And also why Gamsu is trying to push it up. He's saying, I don't want a Rift Herald play to happen where I lose my tier 2 tower on bottom side, so I will push it all the way out and slow down Vitality's push.
Right, and these decisions in the early game are just so important, especially so in these lane swap situations when everyone's accelerating their gold to try to get towards the later stages of it. It can tip the balance very effectively, and you saw how close these two actually were the last time they met. Yes, Vitality won on a big fight, but it was a close game all the way through.
In the end, though, this is still good for Fnatic because they're buying time and they're trading evenly, whereas in normal lanes, they would have likely just got destroyed. So Fnatic doing a fantastic job here. So far, obviously, the early mid-game spans up to, what, like 22 minutes? They have 16 more minutes to go before they really start getting online on a lot of these picks.
Of course.
And Vitality just being a little bit slower in the swap, and also Gamsu being able to push out another wave has actually meant that Vitality said, okay, we're not going to do our fast push with the Rift Herald we normally see where you try and trade tier 2 towers, and we've gone to standard lanes. Obviously, there's a freeze on bottom side right now for Cabochard, meaning Gamsu doesn't really have anywhere to go. Will most likely go towards top side and try and push it out with his team and bounce it back, and he can then grab that wave. Hjarnan is here on his own for now.
It's a good thing you mentioned the slow movements of Vitality and being a little bit more passive. They have been, as Gamsu gets caught and played in. They're just not going to get nearly enough damage out here. This Vitality team do like to take their time. They have one of the longest average game times in Europe.
Yeah, it's a good adaptation here, though, because look at Gamsu. He's around 3 people, so he's experience sharing, where Cabochard in the bot lane, already level 5, getting a freeze off. The remaining members don't really get punished that hard. Nukeduck should be more than fine here, so Vitality are funneling resources into Cabochard, making sure he gets ahead. Then later on, he can start winning that split push matchup versus the Maokai.
And I would say not even just Cabochard, even Hjarnan. Yes, he had to wait a little bit for the wave, but he now has it on his own. And Vitality just reading a situation with their jungler. You can track how good a team is in lane swaps very often just by looking at the jungle pathing, because where is he showing up on the map? In this case, there was only one play for Fnatic really to do, and that was push out top lane with the big wave as 4. Had Shook been randomly on the bottom side, holding hands with Cabochard, you know, talking about the good old days, then that tower would have probably been pushed down by Fnatic, or at least they would have forced Vitality off the tower and gotten some damage on it. But of course, Shook is there, reads it, he's on top side, defends it, and therefore nothing happens.
There's a very key thing, too, to note. A lot of question marks around Vitality's team did center around Shook. He has been, throughout his history as a player, one of the more inconsistent members of this current team. And if he's showing up now, that can only be a good sign. Let's take a look, though, at what's being built across the board in the mid side. Febiven going for that later stage.
Yeah, so he has his Catalyst finished already, which gives him sustain. That's the roughest part for the Kassadin. But more interestingly, he's being put on a side lane very early in this game. Because if you look at Fnatic, what they have in terms of so you need to see if Vitality can find an opening where they maybe push top, rotate mid, and put some pressure on that mid tier 1.
But this is why I think, and we talked about it in Champs, like this Fnatic composition is so difficult to execute and so risky, because when you don't want wave clear, you need to obviously make up for it in some way. In this case, it's by having a strong scaling Kassadin who can take over a game, but he's a very slow scaler himself. And the problem is that once you play 1-3-1 with no wave clear, you need to be the ones pushing the lanes first. So you are the ones who are aggressive, pushing up waves and therefore never defending. Kassadin can't do that. He's going to get pushed in, and he's very, very slow.
Yeah, so while the gold may seem equal on the screen, it's like, yeah, Fnatic's actually ahead. They just lost complete control of their left side jungle because they're not pushing any waves. It's always Vitality first on the move. Fnatic's forced to react, and every time they react and catch a wave, Vitality move in and deep ward. The entire deep jungle is now warded.
And there they go.
Fnatic shouldn't be able to have any map control until this Kassadin is on 2 items. Because he is not a threat in side lane. Anyone can go to that lane almost and just push it out. As long as if you stay AD carry, you just have your support with you. Push out that lane. Kassadin is forced to go defensive again, and then you punish him for the lack of wave clear. And not only wave clear, but also ability to push waves fast. Because that's the other one. How fast can you push out a side lane so you can roam, so you can set up a gank, so you can create pressure? Kassadin is slow, Ezreal is slow, only Maokai can do it.
And as a result, Vitality, they've been able to just grab little bitty advantages here and there. You saw the Rift Herald push they already brought out. Yes, they're a little bit behind in the gold game, but that really doesn't mean too much at this stage. The Dragon's now going to get taken. Every little boost helps in Vitality. They don't have too shabby of a late game either. They just have to keep Fnatic from getting those resources.
I mean, I guess that's another thing about this Fnatic comp is once we go late game, you have this front line of Gragas Nautilus, which scales up really well as well, and then Azir, who's the strongest mage in the late game. Kassadin is more about picking off that one target, stacking off his ulti, obviously, and then surprising you.
The Fnatic obviously have the ability to buy a lot of time, though, with the Kindred ultimate being available in these fights later in the game, too. There's no exhaust on the side of Vitality, so we'll need to see if Shook and Nukeduck can actually use those ultimates well enough to counteract that Kindred ulti, because then Fnatic will be in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, you feel safe for a moment, then you get knocked out by Gragas and you die instantly as a Kindred. Bottom side right now, Cabochard is pushing too far up on his own.
Yeah, he's caught out by Febiven and Gamsu. He might be very tanky, but will he be tanky enough as he sends Depth Charge flying onto Febiven?
Oh, he blocks
him on the Rift Walk. They blocked him from getting out of the queue, and now he's just got to try to walk it out, but no help is coming, and that's first blood to Febi.
And this is a play that started over 3 minutes ago. Remember when Febiven caught that wave in the top lane, and he started slowly pushing that out while we were talking about deep jungle loss, you know, control of the map. Febiven stacked the wave in the top lane, pushed that out, and that bought him enough time to not immediately have to return top. So he kind of stealth ganked bottom lane and completely caught Cabochard off by surprise.
We also have to call out Cabochard here, because this is something he's done before, and it's a top lane thing.
One more wave.
Yeah, one more wave. You know, I don't care about where my team is on the map. If you're solo pushing this far up as a solo top laner here,
without pressure to the other side of the map,
and your team is standing, pushed down to their tier 2 tower around their own blue buff, they have 0 map pressure, which means the other team can go and gank you with multiple members and not lose anything. So that's sloppy by Cabochard. He should have gone back way before.
Looks like he might be in trouble again, though. Febiven looking for round 2. In comes Spirit, though. He's going to yank himself within tower range, and he's safe for now.
And that play, it goes against the fundamentals of a 1-3-1 composition. You spread out on all the lanes, and if they commit to one side, you take more on the other side. That is the basics of 1-3-1. So ideally, when you get caught, that costs your opponent so much time that they will lose jungle access, a tower on the other side of the map. But when, like Deficio said, like everybody's pushed into their towers, then obviously there is no cost to that play for Fnatic, and they pick up a free kill.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that Vitality were able to answer back with is a Rift Herald. They were already stacked a little higher on that top side. But this is encouraging for Fnatic. This is a team, we talked about how this comp is difficult to play. We talked about how Fnatic have struggled to find innovative compositions, to find something that's outside of their comfort zone. This is a good start to the series.
I just can't believe this mid lane tower has so little pressure on it from the side from Vitality. This should be way higher than half HP, way lower than half HP right now. They should be sieging it up, threatening to die from both sides, using that deep vision. Vitality very lackluster in their approach so far.
And that's why this play again from Cabochard is so bad for Vitality. It's more than just giving up a kill, you give up time. And you don't want to let Fnatic scale up. You don't want to give them extra time because you were supposed to be the one having full map pressure in every single lane at this point. What Vitality is running is one of these comps which, you know, we have the 1-3-1s we often talk about, which is what Fnatic's comp is here when you have the AD carry sitting in mid lane. When you run Azir, you become more of a, should we say, like a 3-1-1 comp, where it's your AD carry support jungler on one side of the map, pushing in a lane and getting deep vision, and then the Azir always sitting mid. Because he's just constant wave clear, constant pushing in. But then you have to play aggressive on those side lanes together. So when one guy pushes, the other guy pushes as well. So both side lanes are pushed up, and that's what went wrong for Vitality.
Well, haven't been able to grab anything else off of this, and you can see them falling behind in the gold game as well. The score just keeps creeping up little by little for Fnatic, and with that late game that they've got on their side, Vitality's going to have to step up the pressure.
And just screenshot the minimap right now, because again, that's what we just talked about with the 3-1-1. It's AD carry support jungle on one side, Nautilus opposite side, and then just a sheer perma pushing mid. Because once you thin out Fnatic, so it's a 1v1 in mid lane, it's an Azir versus either Kassadin, which will never be because he has teleport on side lane, or an Ezreal. Azir always has the pushing power there, and we'll push it into tower and slowly hit that tower down, and eventually it will die as long as Vitality keeps the pressure up in the side lanes.
And they are keeping the pressure up. Shook's showing closer to lanes. You can already see he's suffering a little bit in the CS department for it. Compared to what Spirit's been able to pick up, 74 to 44. That's a 30 differential between junglers at 15 minutes.
Yeah, Fnatic, they're sacrificing parts of the map, but they're using their time more efficiently when it comes to farm-wise. The payoff for Vitality is in the end, if they can get some of these towers, like they're finally looking to take down tier 1. And this is big because they can replace this with an Azir turret and then push in and rotate to different areas of the map. This is where Fnatic gets into a tricky position. But Spirit so far, fantastic job to be 30 CS ahead of Shook.
But this play here would have happened like 2 minutes ago, basically, if it wasn't for that one play on Cabochard. And it's what we just talked about. You force Fnatic to send the 3 guys to defend on the side where the AD carry support and jungle is pushing, and then Azir will just push in mid. And he just calls for his team guys, come in, give it a few hits, it's going to die. There's nothing you can do as an Ezreal to defend.
And both teams know that how to play this game, how to play this push back and forth, the give and take. Nobody's really trying to fight each other except for a little bit of pokes and slaps up in the top, up in the mid. And you can see that it has been more of a chess match. Low action game in terms of fighting, but they've been trading objectives constantly. That gold, much needed for Vitality though.
Yeah, and some things we don't always recognize is obviously the looming threat of a double teleport. That is why Vitality has been a little scared at times to really commit for the tier 1, because you can get a teleport flank from Maokai and the Kassadin. That is obviously Fnatic's dream scenario. Kindred buys some time at the front, distracts the backline, and then Maokai just flash through his advance, combined with Riftlock, just get one target down, and suddenly the fight's 4v5.
And if people have been watching a lot of Rocks Tigers over from the LCK, then you will...
If they should.
They should obviously have...
I know you guys have that.
You'll be very familiar with the way they're setting up wards in lanes when they have these double teleport comps. Because you know that once a lane has lost its tier 1 towers, teams will overextend to push them out. Have a ward placed behind them, so when one guy is going up, like say Cabochard is pushing up on one side, you just TP in with the Kassadin, 2v1 kill him very easily. It's very effective, very fast. And that's some of the ways you set up these plays, and Vitality can do the same in the lane where Hjarnan is running. We have the 3-1-1 again from Vitality.
Yeah, Vitality looking to set up a potential rotation here. This is where Azir will always have push priority in the mid lane, so he can push in and then rotate towards the bot lane if there's enough members advantage there. Fnatic do a good job here though. They recognize where the threat is. They leave Gamsu alone on the island in the top lane, but they defend now their jungle axis. They're so far in the game right now that they can actually start defending these deep wards at least.
Still always has to surrender the minion push first. So that means they lose the river automatically, which means you will lose most of the dragons in the start. So that's a scaling advantage for Vitality coming in. Fnatic are moving down to try and stop
this. Dragon's low, and all of a sudden Fnatic are going for the teleport play. True Shot Barrage comes in, clips onto Shook. Gamsu's gone in a little early. The Fox is down. Kolling's out, and they're trying to wear them away. It will be enough to defer Fnatic. And they start on this Drake. It looks like, yes, that is the case, as Spirit was tanking.
Vitality felt a little bit too safe. They were saying the game is supposed to go like this. We push up this lane, we have dragon control, we will get the dragon, and Fnatic has to just sit and scale and do nothing. But Fnatic are strong enough to go in and stop them, so Cabochard was walking down, Nukeduck didn't move from mid lane in time, and therefore Vitality has to give up the dragon.
And Vitality are not a team that give up a lot of dragons. Of all the teams left in the European LCS, they take a lot more than they give. It's a solid positive ratio. They usually control that map so much better. It's a slip up from them.
Yeah, that was one punish from Fnatic. It does cost them a teleport. We need to see what Vitality do now on the map. when teleports are equal in terms of advantage. It's no longer 2 for 1, it's 1 for 1, and 1 is the Kassadin here. Let's see if Vitality can put enough pressure on the side lanes and then maybe rotate for a tower.
Oh, this is where we want to see from Vitality. Let's talk about it after.
Oh, never mind, the teleport's being used. Cabo, guess what?
He's out.
And it's the same play from Cabochard. Again, he's pushed past the river. Look at his team on the minimap. 2 guys on bottom side is not even close to the river. 1 guy's doing blue buff for his mid laner. You cannot push that far up because the other team will just quickly shock call and say, let's go gank top. I mean, the other team can't do anything. They can't take out tower. And therefore, you now force TP. We're just about to talk about how Vitality now could push up again with this AD carry support, place a ward, and because you have the Maokai Nautilus lane, Vitality could just TP that Nautilus to the other side of the map and just
create
have
a members advantage.
Instant members advantage, pick off 1 target maybe and take a tower.
Yeah, as a result,
it's gone now.
Are able to just give, they just give a little bit more safety to themselves. I know you're not happy about this Deficio.
It's small things.
But Vitality come into this the favorite team. They're making these mistakes. Do you think it's a mental thing that they just haven't really been thinking about? It seems less crisp than we're used to seeing from this team.
Yes, that could be one factor of explaining it. The other thing that could be is that if people give so much experience or respect towards an experienced laner, say you see Cabochard overextending, generally you would assume he has a plan or he has jungler backup. There's no way he is this far out without, you know, being caught out really that badly. And sometimes these players that have been so renowned in their region, they get away with murder until people actually start watching the VODs and figure out, no, this guy is just getting so much farm because he's literally overextending. And perhaps that was the case. I don't think it's the case for Cabochard here. I just think he's being greedy.
Yeah, and there's that second part of the reputation too. Everyone always is talking about how Shook just kind of sits in Cabochard's lane. Definitely not been the case this game. Obviously it's old, but maybe Cabo's believing in himself.
I'm actually happy.
Looking at the minimap.
I'm happy you bring it up because that is really one of the things that are not true anymore.
No.
Because
it's also the one thing you trigger Cabochard.
Yeah, Cabochard will obviously go crazy if you say it to him, but like, we're in a tank meta. You don't sit and camp for like a Nautilus lane over and over. Jungle right now is all about pressure and running around your strong lane. So that's the one you push in with the lane and you get deep vision. And you're not even that much of a ganker anymore, in a sense. You're just more... Should we call it second support? No, it's kind of harsh.
You're a security blanket.
Yeah, kind of. You're a second support in a sense.
It's a Swiss Army knife because you can be the tank, you can be the support, you can...
Unless you're playing a Kindred, and then you are definitely a carry. And Spirit, he's doing extremely well. You highlighted earlier.
Working it.
106 CS for him.
I want to see when these team fights do finally start happening, when they've run out of towers to back and forth push. Right now we're 3-2, so there's really still an outer remaining, and teams have a lot of room to move around. But I want to see when these fights happen, who does get the better of it, because so much is going to depend on what Spirit can do and what Febiven can get that backline and shut it down.
And for me, it's actually surprising that Fnatic, if we look back, halfway through the split, after 9 games, we kind of analyzed their style and we said, okay, Rekkles plays kind of slow AD carries in the bottom lane. Spirit, just like Trick in the LCS, farms a hell lot of camps, more than the average jungle. And that's exactly why Fnatic was losing, because they weren't doing anything, they were just being passive. But right now, they seem to be able to fit that style and still hang on in the game.
And I feel like we see a great change from Fnatic in terms of instant calling.
Adaptation.
The 2 times Cabochard did overextend, even ever so slightly, they instant punished him.
Speaking of extending,
and again,
Nukeduck got himself caught right there. Had to go back to his allies.
If you don't punish him right there, if you don't make that call, the second he overextends, you don't push him back, you don't force out that teleport, you don't slow down Vitality, and this game will probably look a lot worse for Fnatic. I would have seen tier 2 towers being down already. Instead, because they have been punishing Vitality, and Vitality honestly has been playing sloppy around that top lane, Fnatic are now in a very good situation.
Yeah, gold's even. They may be down 1 tower, but they've evened up on dragons. They have an incredible late game. And Vitality cannot fight if it gets to that stage. Yeah,
that late game, they can maybe fight, but it's tricky because they're playing a double threat composition into a triple threat composition that is really good at locking down at least one of them. Like Kassadin and Maokai can flash to get access to one of the carries. If they one-shot either Lucian or Azir immediately, the fight's over. But Vitality still have enough damage though to win the fight overall, but they need to do some good positioning and creative usage of the ultimates.
I mean, that's true.
For me, these fights here comes basically down to the 2 mid laners. Because Azir in the late game, if he's able to survive the engage coming from Fnatic, from the Kassadin Maokai jumping his face, he will lay down the damage. Like, he will basically destroy you. But the same thing for Kassadin. You know, if he gets fed enough and he gets onto a squishy, he can take them down. And obviously then this 2 damage composition from Vitality falls apart.
But this Maokai is going to be very tricky to deal with, because if he gets access to Hjarnan, Hjarnan can't ever deal with him. Look at the build here. The Gamsu, Frozen Heart finished. So it's going to be incredibly hard for any physical damage to wear him down. So he'll require attention from Nukeduck, maybe and Shook, maybe and Cabochard, and that could open up for other members on this Fnatic lineup to then step into the fight.
I feel like just so much of the damage from Vitality is just built around Nukeduck.
Well,
Lucian
everyone's
is
talking about the Azir pickup.
Of course, yeah.
How powerful it is. I mean, why not build around it in that case?
I mean, obviously, yeah. It's good to see that Nukeduck is picking it and the team is taking it early rotation. We talked about the smart pick and ban phase. To me, it's not been the pick and ban phase that was the issue for Vitality at all. It's actually been the in-game falling.
There we
It's gonna be a big team fight here.
It's going to be all 5. Vitality might be caught right in the clutch. They dodge the true shot out and go to the safety of the Azir turret. Yeah, it's a false alarm, unfortunately. Fnatic got away with the dragon, though.
Wrong season, Deficio.
No
this
team
was
fight
season
here.
3. We would see a team fight.
I want to point out if there was a Sivir in this game, that would have been a team fight.
Yeah, that's
Should
why
have ran
she's banned.
headfirst into a tower, though.
The difference here is like, it's the adaptation from both teams, knowing their limits. It was the reaction, Fnatic get the dragon. The standard counterplay, hopefully we don't get in the fight here, is obviously that you rotate mid and you go for the siege, but Fnatic immediately look to collapse on all different sides. Look at how they didn't take the long way around to defend their tower from the front, because that's not what their composition is built for. But they kind of ran into a problem with that Azir turret being popped up, and that kind of delayed their flank engage and bought enough time for Vitality to reposition.
Always been one of their few complaints about Azir is like, everything about you is great. Why is your passive also building a tower? Like, do you even need that passive? Not really, but it's another awesome thing about
Come on,
Azir.
man. It's a fun disc.
I like it.
Gotta enjoy it. All right, so while that
Wrong
was all
skin, though,
happening...
by Nukeduck, we have to point out.
That is true.
I think that's exactly what's holding Vitality back here.
Undead skin, and this game would have been over already.
GG. Vitality on their side. They managed to get away with the blue buff, but Shook on the way out actually had to pop the big barrel. That has pretty low cooldown, so it won't be too much of a problem. They've really just been trying to disengage. Not a lot of fights, and neither team has been too interested in taking Fnatic a little bit more, so as Shook bops up and Lantern's back.
And we're very close to big fights here every time. Like, if Spirit gets hit by that body slam, he gets ultied backwards and he likely has to flash and maybe might not still make it out. But he is just, you know, I guess I'll challenge Raptors here. I'm confident I can juke this kid. It's a very bold play.
Aggressive Spirit.
Such a classic EU lane swap game. It's just, it's all these small things that will impact if a team can push or not. Both teams are smart enough to understand, like here in the mid lane, the last 2 minutes, don't overextend, don't like chase the fight when you don't have to, because we're running into an Azir turret or we're running into a Fnatic tier 2 tower, end up backing away. Both teams still want to kind of scale up a little bit more. But again, it's Vitality who are, should we say, in trouble a little bit?
Oh, I think they're definitely in trouble. They should have been farther ahead, regardless whether they could maybe make it out in the late game with some good play, which I don't think the difference is as, or it's not as even, I feel. I really think this triple threat from Fnatic pose such a big threat towards Vitality, because it's so easy to blow up the Lucian audience here.
It just comes so much, it comes down to like the engage happening from either team, because if Vitality is able to engage him with Gragas, Nautilus, and Ezreal Kindred will struggle to take down that front line. And then it's all about Febiven like kind of on his own with the damage at
Secret
least.
spy Kassadin.
Just going for that one man out of position, either Hjarnan or Nukeduck, and that's where Azir is so fantastic. Like, he's good with tanks and against tanks.
And we've been seeing a lot of people, but especially Cabochard, getting caught in these positions. If they keep that up, it's going to be easy for Fnatic to start picking them up. This is only game 1. Remember, we could have potentially a really long series on our hands, but Vitality coming into this, definitely the favorites considering what they've been able to do. However, in some recent weeks, they were struggling a bit. They did 2-2 in their last couple of weeks, even though Fnatic, as we get a nice view of the Rift Owl,
Kevin Owl,
have not had as much success either with the 0-3 in the last weeks of the LCS regular split. This looks like a much more revitalized team. I don't know what Daler was telling them the last 2 weeks. Clearly it's helped.
Well, I mean, we have to remember that when you as a caster prepare for these games, there are 2 weeks in between them. So like we saw the last LCS game, we were like, okay, you know, here's some issues from both teams. But those issues, the teams have of course noticed as well, and they've been working on them.
They know them a week earlier, or 2 weeks earlier. They've been working on these issues for a month right now. And also, this is one of those games. Hang on, Klaj gets caught. Shook goes in.
Oh, they got the barrel, but he's going to have to flash out, and Hjarnan lays down the culling, but it's not enough to snipe anyone out. Nothing doing again.
Yeah, and this is one of those games where a few mistakes change the entire perception of it. If Cabochard doesn't get caught or punished by Fnatic, and suddenly Vitality starts snowballing, everybody including us, will be like, oh, Fnatic, why are you playing such a slow composition? I knew it from the get-go. But right now, they did a fantastic job staying to this game, and Vitality have not yet found access to Baron, to Dragons. Hell, not even towers. We've got that tier 1 in the mid lane. All ours are down, but that's just about it.
And I would like to promise all the viewers that we will get more kills.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it right now.
Can you promise me that, Deficio?
I will promise you there will be more kills, but also for the next few games to come. This has been a lane swap game. It's been a game where Fnatic had a composition that really wanted to scale up and could get punished if the team didn't make mistakes, but Vitality did, and that's why we're going now into the 30-minute mark, and we still only have 1 kill.
Yeah.
But if you do enjoy farming, there's been a lot of it. Look at here, Gamsu.
It's a very controlled game, yeah.
Even with the sapling, yeah, there we go.
There we go, we managed
Mechanics.
I mean, that's beautiful.
I think it's time we check in, though, really quick on how things have actually evened up in that farm department, because you can see Vitality have actually caught up in most of the roles, except you still see Shook falling down further and further. Well, about the same level as he was before, 30 CS. Spirit has just been able to monster that.
Oh, Gamsu
follows onto him, and the sapling tries to keep up. Hook comes flying, but it won't connect.
Closest we will get.
Guess what? He's a tank. We're not going to kill him. It's like, I can hook him here, but no, let's just save it for later. And this is exactly, barring any major positional mistakes, Fnatic is comfortable scaling. Vitality is too afraid to really commit to a fight of this double teleport, and we're kind of at an impasse.
Yeah, also the lane assignment here from Vitality is tricky, or making it harder for them, because having the Nautilus against the Kassadin is definitely not the lane for Cabochard to be in. He's also 2 levels down after dying at first, but he's always going to be pushed down by Kassadin now. He can't touch him.
They're losing the push priority.
Yes. You need the Lucian Thresh lane against Kassadin, but there's double teleport, so you can't set up that lane anymore, because the Kassadin will just TP to the other side of the map and either go for Baron or just like collapse on someone.
Speaking of Baron,
Vitality's stunning it. They're getting out of blue trinket.
Yeah. In comes the rest of Fnatic. The hook is on, and they pull him and bop him. That's a lot of damage. Cabo coming around the back. They're going to try to tunnel in onto the tree. Can they take him out? It's Klaj. They actually turn around. Febiven's around the backside, and it's Shurima the back way. It's Febiven who's staying alive. Vitality lose Hjarnan, and now they're on the run lest they lose any more lives in this one. Chase is still on. We've already doubled our kills this game, boys. Let's see if we get any more. Oh, everyone's caught in between the Azir damage, though.
Daylor chilling to some music as well with the headset on. Doesn't even smile after his team wins a team fight. And here, Vitality, they're forcing Baron because they're realizing we're losing. We cannot let Febiven sit bot lane with teleport.
We missed a small part of that because Pyra decided to mute you. Let's repeat that statement.
All right.
I had to time you out for a second.
Not a problem, Pyra. I don't blame you for that one. But basically, Vitality is saying we have to force a Baron fight to get a teleport from Febiven. Stop this 1-3-1 instantly. Means it's very forced engage onto Gamsu. He's the man they're trying to chunk down because no one else is there. So look at this start.
They need to commit. They need to. The only way this play works is if you can actually one-shot the tank here before backup arrives. Gamsu flashes out, and Cabochard, while flanking, if he was like a carry player that he's used to playing, he could finish off that tank right there. But right now, Febiven comes in, and at this point, if Febiven doesn't instantly get turned on, fight is over. The only reason it's relatively close here is because they chase into a couple of Azir soldiers. Fnatic can retreat to Baron here, shut off the entrance, and suddenly it's, a free Baron.
So in many ways, it is the correct call from Vitality to make in the first place.
Yep.
Force Baron, get teleport out of the way so we don't have to deal with that side lane push from the Kassadin right now. He's the only man we can't stop. Problem is, Gamsu is the only guy walking in first, setting up another trap. I feel like this game he's kind of been letting Cabochard push in towards him and then calling for his team to gank him quite a few times, and now he's the man just soaking up the damage in this fight.
Yeah, and now Fnatic can actually take complete control of this game because they have push prio on both side lanes and the teleport to boot on Gamsu. He's strong enough right now to at least challenge waves against Cabochard, who is struggling from behind on a tank. And Fnatic have access to this Baron area, and right now they're sweeping. If they get the vision control, the punish they can put on Nukeduck or Hjarnan face checking can be immense, but they're actually opting for a 3-man Baron.
Well, I think it's a good call. Again, you have Kindred, a lot of stacks under her belt. Try and force Vitality to move in. You can go for them.
Yeah, looking to see if they can pop the Fab. They can. He barrels him away, but it's right back into the Baron. And now Vitality trying to soften that one up. Fly around the front. Febiven half health. Hjarnan executes him. Baron's down. The fight's on. They try to push him back, and it's not going to be enough. The double kill coming in for Febiven, and now the Lamb's Breath butts up. So that's going to be a few seconds before anyone else falls. But it's going to be KaSing. It's going to be Cabo, and it's going to be Fnatic with the ace.
Ace from Fnatic and straight looking at the inhibitor, maybe even a Nexus Tower because death timers are long. They've got a Baron buff and we see exactly what we were so afraid of. Vitality. They didn't pull the trigger in the early game and they find themselves completely outmatched by honestly Fnatic being smarter than them.
Yes, and that one team fight Vitality we're looking for around the Baron at first. Engage onto Gamsu, he's the only man there, so they don't get to use the strong front line. And now Fnatic, with the advantage on the map, sets up another Baron. Shook comes in on his own. Again, this means Vitality's comp will fall apart because you don't have that synergized engage.
And he completely melts, because something we haven't talked about too much is obviously why is Poppy and Trundle the tier 1 picks? Because Trundle can steal so many resistances and Shook immediately melted trying to contest that objective. He doesn't have the ability to buy as much time as Fnatic does with this Lamb's Respite in some of these fights. And that was just an ill-advised phase check, but he had to. He was left with no choice.
Yeah, again, everything like this one play is obviously what looks the worst for Vitality, but this game for them is lost before this play even happens. It's in the start, getting the kills in the side lane on Cabochard, slowing them down, and then that Baron attempt for them, not resulting in a proper teamfight engage. That's where the game is lost for Vitality. Fnatic are looking very strong.
And it may be just symptomatic of what Fnatic are doing this game, but when they do get Barons, they win. This split, 7 Barons, 7 wins on the board. It's just a trend for them, and it's a huge Baron power play already with that fight after the fact, and this is so hard for Vitality to come back from.
I mean, big part of the meta for good teams is when you get that Baron, you use it to close out because these towers are often so weak. You can just smack them down instantly and get a big enough advantage that you shouldn't be able to lose.
And honestly, Fnatic, when we've seen them play a lot of these games, they go for a slow ramping up style. This is aside from the Jhin kind of era that they had. And obviously, if you are allowed to scale into the game and then eventually you're allowed to pick up a Baron, that means likely you're in so much control of the game that you will simply close out. Correlation, causation for the Baron finishes not exactly the same.
Still so many question marks around the pick and ban phase coming in from Fnatic. The first rotation was the one we praised, where they took the Maokai Trundle.
Yeah,
has proven very impactful because you didn't want to give that Trundle pick over to Cabochard and just put it support. Also, honestly, a support where Klaj can't really overextend too much. Like you're kind of running with your demon and you just kind of wait for the tank to move forward and you steal away his stats and you become very, very hard to kill yourself.
I mean, he hasn't had too much trouble on this at all, and we've critiqued him a lot in the past for really being out of position, or at least being a sacrificial support a lot of the times as Febiven looks to hunt down Cabo. He's not going to be able to get it, but Vitality are forced all the way back into their base here. I mean, what can they do to try and come back into this, or is it just a situation where you need to think about Game 2? I
mean, they're obviously thinking about Game 2. This game is not impossible for them to win, barring any really good shuffles here from Nukeduck. But I think Chance needs to adjust the pick and ban. Either go for a more aggressive or just, Vitality, they could win this game by playing the perfect style, and there's nothing Fnatic can do. Based on comps, if you play the perfect style 0 to 25, I think you can get such a big lead where Fnatic doesn't have the wave clear to answer any of the sieges, or at least they have to make very forced teleports, and then it comes to team fights.
I really feel like Vitality and the coaching staff with Chance will look at this game and say, we actually had what we wanted, and it looked good for the first, should we say, 15 minutes, but we made some sloppy mistakes, and that's why we couldn't snowball this one. This is obviously a pick and ban phase that's been in plan for like 2 weeks. They've been thinking about, what to first pick, depending on scrim results, and for both teams. They wanted to see what the Fnatic counter pick could be into the Azir. In this case, it was the Kassadin. Obviously not directly the one killing the Azir in lane, but later on.
And I wonder how Fnatic's going to react, because obviously we're switching sides here. Maybe they don't go for a super slow style. I think it would be surprising if they go for a super aggressive composition in the next game. Kind of surprise Vitality there, because there are glaring weaknesses to the composition, but Fnatic have shown that with a little bit of different pick and bans, they can also get access to maybe more aggro comps, and since they will be blue side next game, they can get access to the likes of that Jhin Poke composition with Jhin Corki, Jhin Varus, and suddenly put earlier pressure into sieges.
Right. Although it's worth noting for Vitality, they have dealt with that Jhin composition and beaten it from Fnatic, the only team to really be able to do so.
It was close though, Pyra.
It was a close game, and I'm excited to see if it can happen again. Fnatic, though, I mean, they're on the verge of crushing this one off of that Baron fight. 37.5 minutes into the game, I mean, when they turn up the gas, doesn't matter, you can put different players in Fnatic jerseys, but man, they can turn it up.
I mean, this makes me so happy to see Fnatic with their...
You don't sound happy.
Well, I am happy.
That sounds better.
I just always sound bored, I guess, but like, I'm actually happy to see the Fnatic with their new and improved shot calling.
Yeah?
Because we see them constantly put themselves in situations where they can't punish Vitality. Even around that Baron here, again, we keep highlighting. The way to stop the Baron by sending in 3-man first and waiting with Febiven's teleport until he gets a perfect flank made it so hard for Vitality to properly engage. And it's full credit to Fnatic for punishing Vitality in this game.
I want to see what they do without the Trundle pick. Without actually being to steal out of the resistances of the enemy tank and then just immediately blow it up. And have Klaj on a support that is more likely to die, more likely to be caught out while trying to peel. I think that may be a good pivot, but we don't know if Vitality actually have room to shift in their pick and ban playstyle and pick priority to get rid of that Trundle.
Well, we should definitely see different bans for them. Not because the bans were bad, but because they're now, obviously, as you said earlier, on red side. And they were setting up for that Azir first pick. So we're not expecting them to ban like Jhin, Corki on a red side. You probably will take away Nidalee. Potentially Kindred if you feel like Spirit is an issue with this champion. Obviously, Graves was banned. I think it's better to ban out the Graves and leave the Kindred in.
Definitely got to think they're not going to go for that Azir first pick again. I mean, look what it's netted them. A big fat raspberry, really. A couple of Sun
But that's
they've been able
because
to
he misplays.
I wouldn't be so quick.
This again?
I wouldn't be so quick to write off Azir. There's a reason he's really high in priority across the globe.
He's insanely overpowered.
Like, he, at all times, Azir had control of the push in mid, could walk up and siege a tower. If Vitality found a way to pincer both mid and right side, left and right side rather of the mid lane, they could push the dive thread on the Kassadin. He would have to walk away. Suddenly that's a free tower. Rinse and repeat for every tower on the map, and suddenly you have a 5k. You can wait with it.
All right, teleport comes in now. Cabochard showing a little bit of dominance here. He's trying to. It's hard to do when you don't have a lot of room to move throughout your jungle. Fnatic retreating throughout their own mid lane, but they've bought some time for Febiven here to push completely unopposed on the bottom side.
This 5-item Ezreal is really scary too with these defensive items, you know.
He's going. Oh, wow. They're going to try to 4v5 this for a second. The shuffle backwards. Fnatic a little bit low, but Rekkles is able to take out Nukeduck in the back of it all. Meanwhile, Cabo had gone back down to deal with Febiven, and this is going to be curtains for Vitality unless they can pull something out of their hat quick. Lamb's Respite comes down for Spirit. Hjarnan trying to duke it out with him here. Dashes forward, but he's slain. It is 3 members down. And KaSing's gonna go as well. Flays back, buys time, not enough. And Cabo is the lone man left for Vitality as Febiven flashes away.
Taunts him a little bit as well. Dances around after flashing. Look, and Cabochard is chasing.
Yeah, he wants at least 1 kill on the board here for Vitality. 0 in 11, completely against all expectations, even after the pick and ban. Vitality don't show up, but Fnatic do.
Fnatic show up absolutely massive, and they will try to close this one out as cleanly as they can. Have not given up a man, have taken 8 towers. Febiven is still playing with Cabochard, and this game is over. The last Nexus turret's gonna fall, and at 41 minutes, Fnatic have had a monster game 1, and they will try to close it out and see what we can do in game 2.
And such an interesting game 1 because Vitality in many ways won that pick and ban phase and had so many ways of playing out the early to mid game, but Fnatic was the better team in game. And that's the thing that stands out to me, because this composition from Vitality was supposed to push down a Kassadin, Ezreal, Maokai so hard, but Fnatic had better shot calling and punished whenever Vitality were overextending.
I mean, we have to go back to the start too. KaSing opting for the Ignite uses it very well early to burn the flash, but then later on doesn't have that exhaust for any of these flanking carries to come in. And suddenly it's really easy for Febiven, Gamsu to find openings. And Fnatic, they never got punished where they should have. Tier 1 tower should have dropped a lot earlier.
Sure.
They got the lane swap that they wanted to. There was no mirroring. We need to look at this mid lane matchup too, Azir versus Kassadin. Luckily we have Perks on the desk. Maybe he can shine some light on that. Because I don't think Febiven should be allowed to tie farm that long and then get even a farm advantage on the side lanes.
Probably not even farm in lane, but once he goes to the side lane, technically, again, he should be denied
but he
a
should
lot
lose
more.
His base.
Yeah, he should have lost everything around him, and that's, again, why it was so awesome, honestly, to see Fnatic play so well in-game. Like, this is 2 weeks of practice, hitting in the cave, just practicing, and they come up with this, and it looked really good from Fnatic.
And it absolutely paid off. We're going to have to hear what the analysts have to say, so they'll take it away to discuss and dissect Fnatic's Game 1 victory.
Thank you so much, guys, and an incredibly interesting first game. I heard Deficio say that he thought that Vitality had a great draft, and I know that is what you guys said in the beginning when we saw the Azir coming out, obviously as a first pick, but as it evolved at the end, you guys said that Fnatic made some very important good choices in their draft.
Well, I think overall Fnatic had pretty good comp against Azir. They could always pretty much go in on him, and this was very crucial. But also what I see on Vitality comp is that they all have like kind of go-in picks, and then there's Azir that you have to play around, because if Azir doesn't deal damage in team fight, then the fight is kind of lost. So they can't really initiate from half the map like they could do with LeBlanc, for example. They always have to play around the Azir pick, which was pretty important in this one as well, because they just didn't seem like they knew what to do and they were playing so passive.
Yeah, so much goes on that Azir pick. Perks, talk us through the Azir-Kassadin matchup. I expect we will be seeing a lot of counters or things to do in lane versus Azir, but Kassadin shouldn't have the best time.
Okay, so Azir early game pushes in Kassadin and destroys him, and especially after the level 1 gank when Febiven flashed, when I don't think he even should have flashed. After that, the lane should be over, at least before level 6, before Kassadin hits 6. So Azir should be 20 CS up before Kassadin hit 6, but I don't think he was. So after that, Febiven got free farm, and then he went top and he caught all the sideways. And ever since then, Azir even shared XP mid with Lucian and stuff, and yeah, he didn't get really far ahead of that.
And I liked what Vitality were trying to do with the Kassadin. They were always trying to go to the Kassadin lane and push him in. The problem is they kind of gave him too much farm throughout the game as it is. And we were talking here on the desk, and it was like, well, you know, if Fnatic play the team fights right, this should be their game. And the fights started to go Fnatic's way when you look at it. The first one we had was one of the ones in the jungle. Maybe Jankos, you could give your 2 cents on one of these, the fights that we had in the early game.
Well, let me see, which one was it?
This is the first Baron, actually.
This is the first Baron.
Yep. Well, we're going to roll it out. It is the first time that Vitality attempts it, but Fnatic gets in the way.
Well, I think Fnatic is kind of grouped correctly. They play around the carries. They don't go in. They just peel back. And then, yeah, Kassadin TPs on the back. He flashes in with ult, and they pretty much one-shot Hjarnan. And then the fight is over. And also, they can't kill Kassadin just because he's level 16 already. So his R is 1 second cooldown. So I think overall, Fnatic stalled the game well. And then in this fight, they showed that they know how to play their comp.
However, you were saying after that, they kept chasing. What should they have done?
Yeah, they actually overchased versus Azir and Thresh and Gragas, all the slows. And they just got chunked down, but they got mid turret off it, so it wasn't that bad. But if they didn't chase, I think they could get Nash and then get a lot more advantage of that. So
I mean, if they wouldn't get Nash, they would at least force one more fight, and then they don't have Hjarnan, so they would just, you know, snowball.
In this phase of the game, obviously, it's important to see which items all the people have. Jankos, you're very, very vocal on Twitter about the Gragas build, obviously spending that money on the potion and the lucidity boots with with distortion, and the fact that he was glass cannon in the team fights to come.
Well, I think it's kind of solo queue build, because I would do it, for example, if I want to practice E-Flash with Graguni, but that's it, kind of, you know, because then in fights you are super squishy, and at some point he had only 2 items finished. It was the jungle item, the AP item, and then the cooldown boots with cooldown distortion. So in fights he was super squishy, and he couldn't find the peak to use the fact that his flash was only 3 minutes cooldown. So I think that impacted the game pretty hard as well.
Yeah, and I think we actually have an example of that in our second replay here, which was the one at the Baron where, well, Gragas went pop. So this is another one of these fights where we said, you know, Fnatic at this point is so far ahead with the damage. Maybe you guys want to walk us through this one, Perks?
I mean,
yeah, I think
this is just destroyed, you know,
yeah, I don't know what happened there, but
he just kind of died instantly. He couldn't do anything.
And then Hjarnan had Bug Splash, and even one-shot him. And then, at this point, Kassadin is so strong. It's his huge power spike. After level 16 and 3 items, Kassadin is super broken, and they actually just let him get to that point really free. Fnatic played to their comp, but Vitality didn't play the best to their comp. So.
Yeah,
and also, in this very particular fight, they just went one by one, the Vitality players. So it was really weird for me to see that, because I thought the players are really good, and I thought, in regular speed, they're playing good as well as a team, you know. And right now, they struggle in the first game.
Yeah, what was particularly interesting to me was the fact that Cabochard there at the end, he uses his TP to go into a fight that wasn't really a fight, leaving Kassadin open to take the inhibitor. Is that something that you hadn't expect Cabochard to make, these kinds of mistakes?
Yeah, he TP'd from inhibitor to it, but I think, honestly, at that point, Fnatic was already 12 gold ahead.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of time before they finished the game, so it was like more of like, I don't know, nervous play or something.
I mean, they just try to make something happen, and if it doesn't happen, they will still lose the game. So they try to make the play, and it just didn't work out.
What does this tell you about the rest of the series?
Tells me that Fnatic are a little bit better than in a tank meta than a lot of our original opinion was. I know you guys think that Cabo still can play tanks very well. I think it gives Fnatic a very easy play style, and they actually played that, which was more complicated, fairly well. They were quite clean in that game, which was surprising to me.
Well, I think that, for example, Cabochard is way better on the carries because he is very vocal about the fact that he needs help. And then if the help comes, he will snowball. And Nukeduck, as the carry player in this game with Azir, he should call them to siege mid to take the mid turret against Kassadin, which has like the Fnatic team had like no wave clear, so if they just group mid a bit faster and siege mid, they'll try to get a lot of turrets. And well, probably Nukeduck should call it because he's the mid laner. He should punish more the Kassadin. Instead, we saw them rotating, like trying to punish Kassadin, but Kassadin was still farming, and then Cabochard cannot 1v9 as a tank. And then yeah, Nukeduck was probably just being quiet, as I know him, and he's just farming as well under the turret, so it's over.
Yeah,
it's a
that's actually true.
Yeah.
Okie doke, glad that you guys agree. Well, Fnatic has taken game 1. The pressure is now on Vitality to tie things up or go 0-2 in this best of 5. Our coverage of the LCS Spring Playoffs continues right after this.
Oh no, please, no.
Vamos Lima,
You're gonna teach me for the whole best of 5, by the way.
And now he's just got to try to walk it out, but no help is coming. And that's first blood to Febi. Turn around. Febiven's around the backside, and then Shurima, the back way. It's Febiven who's staying alive. Front Febiven, half health. Hjarnan executes him. Baron's down. The fight's on. They try to push him back.
Push mid. Fight. Push mid. We can maybe finish even. Mid. Push. Nice!
Fnatic have had a monster game 1, and they will try to close it out and see what we can do in game 2.
As C9 advanced towards the inhibitor turret,